Hi there. First off, thanks for clicking on that button to watch this video. I'll frame up quickly what we're going to cover in the next 25 to 30 minutes. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to visit the profile, the LinkedIn profile of a friend of mine, John West. I told John about 6 months ago how to improve his profile. When I looked at it today to prepare for this video, I realized John hadn't touched it. So we're going to pick on him a little bit more. Hopefully he sees this video. Maybe I'll send it to him and we can spur him to improve his profile. Now, after we go through some of the basics on the profile, we're going to jump into Sales Navigator. I'm going to share with you 3 routines that we've developed here at Social Advisors based on a bunch of data to help you start more conversations every single day with your prospect, with your target prospect. Now, depending on the time, the amount of time you have in a day, there is no shortage of opportunities to start new conversations. And when I talk to advisors and ask them what's the single most difficult thing about growing your business, probably 9 times out of 10, the response I get is starting more conversations with the type of people I want to do business with. That's what Sales Navigator is designed to do. Okay, so let's jump right into it. I want to keep this as brief as possible for you. I promise a ton of information coming out of the next 25 or 30 minutes. So let me share my screen with you, and then I'll show you John's terrible profile. Haha, give me one moment. Okay. My friend John West. John, if you're watching at all. So we're going to look at 5 basic branding elements of the profile: cover photo, headshot, headline, this section here. John does not have a summary, so I'll give you some tips on writing a good summary. And then we're going to talk about building out the right network as well. Okay, so the cover photo, and I'll show you some examples. I'll just refer to my profile where it makes sense. The cover photo itself, what you see right now, is a default cover photo from LinkedIn. You have the opportunity to customize this. If the work that you do is all very geographically based, if you live in St. Louis, for example, perhaps we put a picture of the St. Louis skyline there, the arch. If we can get a Busch Stadium in the background, even better. Interesting, I've got emails popping in. Live environment while we record, so no big deal. So geographically based is always great because it ties you back to your community. Or you could also reinforce the brand a little bit, right? Take some of the elements from the website, put your logo on it, and reinforce the brand. Now, if we look at my cover photo, we prospect from coast to coast. So I try to share a little bit of my personality. I live on the Florida coast here. I love to paddleboard. I will tell you that is not me on the paddleboard because I don't have an awesome image of myself, but it shares a little bit about who I am as an individual. And ultimately, at the end of the day, after people do their diligence and you demonstrate your professionalism and your credibility and your ability to take care of them, they're going to choose you based on who you are as an individual and do they want to grow the relationship with you. So demonstrating a little bit about who you are is important as well. Back to John. Now, John's cover photo looks great. The problem I've got with John's cover photo is that it's too far zoomed out, right? So it's difficult for me in this small little format to see what John looks like, right? Now, so we're looking for 2 things in a good cover photo. First off, have a professional photo done, right? Support your local photographer. It's probably $99 to have a good professional photo done. In social media, a lot of people think you should go a little more casual. I'm fine with the tie and the buttoned-up jacket. John looks awesome in that regard. I see a lot of people with no tie and jacket, maybe shot in the outdoor space because it looks a little more casual, if you will. So the 2 things that we recommend: make sure that the photo's zoomed in enough that I can see what you look like, and make yourself look approachable. Okay, John's got a great smile on his face, the little bit we can see of it. I see a lot of headshots with the arms crossed. If you can see my camera image in the top corner, arms crossed and stern looking. I call that the hard ass photo. That does not look approachable, right? I don't even understand necessarily what that's about. But if we're going to drive a bunch of people to your profile, make sure that you look approachable, have a smile on your face, okay? So number 3, what we look at is this headline right here. This headline draws from John's latest experience with Spraker Wealth. There's 140 characters available to you. Customize this to say more about who it is that you work with and the value that you provide them. So if we go back to my profile for an example of this, you can see my profile says Modern Prospecting, helping financial advisors leverage LinkedIn Sales Navigator for growth and client communication. Very straightforward. We work with financial advisors. What do? We help them leverage the power of Sales Navigator to grow their business. That's it. Very simple. So if you work with baby boomers, if you work with pre-retirees, if you work with physicians, if you work with business owners, say that in your headline. And then you got to be very concise, but what's the value that you provide them? Next is the summary. John doesn't have a summary on his profile, so I'll point it out on my profile. You've got 2,000 characters available to you here, and you've got the opportunity to embed media as well. So when people come back and do their diligence, they've got the opportunity to read about you, and you can input a video or a little more detailed media about your business, about you personally. So here's the elements you want to think about. First off, you'll notice this is written in first person. That's going to be the difference between an introduction and a biography, right? Save your biography for the website. Use this as an introduction to somebody, right? It's a little more personal, a little more casual. Talk in first person. Start with the problem that you solve, right? You've got to grab somebody's attention very quickly. So speak specifically to common problems that you solve. Second, focus on credibility factors, education, designations, experience, things along those lines. Third, talk about the value you provide for your clients. And finally, wrap up with a little bit of information about who you are personally. Talk about family if you're comfortable with that. Talk about how you're involved in the community. Talk about your interests and hobbies outside of the work that you do as an advisor. This allows people to identify with you as a person as opposed to just a professional. And again, once you've demonstrated your credibility and your ability to help them, they're going to make a decision to work with you based on who you are as an individual. Okay. Let me dive back into John's profile here. Finally, we've got the cover photo, the headshot, the headline, the summary, and then John's network, 500 plus connections. So we always recommend disconnecting from your competitors. Disconnect from other people that are in the same profession. Get rid of the other advisors. Now, there's exceptions to this, right? If you're in a recruiting role, of course, you've got to be connected to other advisors. Second, if you collaborate with other advisors, even outside your firm, obviously you need to be connected with them as well. But as a rule of thumb, disconnect from other advisors. Being connected to them gives them the potential to see your network and your activity. We don't want to share that. Now, the other thing that I'm going to comment on, we've talked about the 5 key branding elements, and of course we could dive a lot deeper into this profile, and certainly if you want to set up a consultation after this video, we will dive a lot deeper, but those are some of the basics. I want to point out this section here, people also viewed. You'll notice that this doesn't show up on every profile. You've got the ability to turn this section off. And this is one of those elements that LinkedIn puts in place to create value for me, the visitor of John's profile. We're logged into my profile right now in a live environment. LinkedIn is saying, hey, Charlie, if you've got interest in John West, perhaps you've got interest in these people. People who have visited John West's profile have also visited these people. For the overwhelming majority of the advisors' profiles that I view, having people also viewed on the profile is a bad idea. And we can look here. Frank Garcia, he's a co-chief investment officer, wealth advisor at Resource Consulting Group, right? Wealth advisor at Ford Financial, financial planner, financial management concepts, and so on and so forth. The issue is we're going to drive traffic to John's profile. And when they get there, we want them to be focused on John West, not on Robert Farmer or Frank Garcia, who are John's competitors. Now, to turn this off is very simple. You just go under this little thumbnail of you in the top right corner, click the down arrow, go to Settings and Privacy, and under Privacy here in the center, the 4th one down is Viewers of this profile also viewed. Mine's already turned off, so when you get to yours, it's going to say yes. If it says yes, toggle it to no, and then your profile will no longer display this section called People Also Viewed. It's bad for the overwhelming majority of you. Okay, that's our brief little conversation. I'm moving some things around the desktop. That's our brief little conversation about, about the profile. Now we're going to dive into Sales Navigator. Sales Navigator is an upgrade premium service. If you pay monthly, it costs $79 a month. I do not work for LinkedIn. I do not get compensated by LinkedIn in any way. I will tell you, don't tell LinkedIn this, I will tell you I would pay double. It is that valuable to our business development here at Social Advisors. Okay, so diving into LinkedIn Sales Navigator, the very first thing that when you set up with Sales Navigator, and you're going to have 30 days free if you haven't already used those with Sales Navigator. The very first thing that they're going to ask you is to set your sales preferences. Now, we prospect across the country, right? So mine are very simple. Prospect in the United States. We do have a team in Canada that prospects there. We prospect in the financial services and the insurance industry. We're looking for marketing and sales roles, and these can be modified incidentally at any time. So if you work with business owners, you can specify that. If you do benefits, right, and you work with plan sponsors, you can specify HR professionals, CFOs, controllers. If you want to work with executives from a retail perspective, you can specify all of that within your sales preferences. This helps LinkedIn Sales Navigator know who it is that you want to start new conversations with. And again, that's the sole purpose of this platform, is to help you start new conversations. Okay. Once you set your sales preferences, under lists, go to My Network. Now, this is going to be a list of everybody you're connected to. I should say just about everybody, because for some reason, I've got about 4,200 connections. It always comes up with about 3,700, and I'm not sure what that is. Maybe it's other people's privacy settings. I'm not real sure, but it never hits the exact number of connections I've got. Now, as advisors who are happy to do rollovers, I want you to pay attention to this number, right? 97 of the people I'm connected to have changed jobs in the last 90 days, okay? We're going to look at this again, but 97 people in my network, if I'm an advisor, should get a call from me, or at least a message, right, that says, hey, I noticed on LinkedIn you recently changed jobs. There's a couple things you need to consider. Let's schedule 5 minutes. Let me give you an education, right? That's your opportunity to put your foot in the door, and you got a great, compelling reason to do that. So that's an important number. For now, we're going to concentrate on this 3751. Now, we've got people like Mindy Diamond that I'm connected to, right? She's probably a familiar name in the industry. Mindy's an influencer. I have saved her as a lead, okay? Now, all it means when I tell LinkedIn that I saved somebody as a lead, all it tells them is that this is somebody that I want to have future conversations with. That's it, okay? Bill Good. Now, Bill does not embrace internet so much. He shouldn't. 40 plus years of Bill Good marketing had nothing to do with internet. So it doesn't behoove Bill to embrace internet marketing, right? He's expressed to me, Charlie, has social media ever brought in a client? And when I said, yes, Bill, he wasn't really interested in talking about that anymore. But anyway, Bill's an influencer in this industry. And if I can start a conversation with him, certainly I want to do that. I know that I've saved these people as leads simply because this button to the right says message, okay? So let me scroll down. John Bly, I have not saved as a lead. Perhaps I should, but I haven't done that to this point. And that's why that button says save. So if I want to save John as a lead, all I do is click that button. Very simple, okay? Now again, when you save somebody as a lead, all you're doing is telling them, you're telling LinkedIn, this is somebody I want to communicate with. That's it, okay? Before we go any further in Sales Navigator, let me jump back into the free version of LinkedIn. I'm going to go to the home page. Again, we're in a live environment, so I'm not controlling any of this whatsoever. Okay, so the first post I've got is from Triad Advisors. I know some people over at Triad, Jeff Rosenthal. Hello, Jeff, if you see this video. So it's probably good for me to know about this information about Triad's conference. It's not necessarily going to help me prospect in any way, but that's not bad information. Sponsorship group for public television is the next post, and you can see by virtue of the fact that this says promoted, this is an ad, right? For whatever reason, sponsorship group is target. I fit into the targeting for their ad, right? I don't know why that is, but they specified people like me to see their ad, and this really doesn't do me a whole lot of good at all. Let's see, Mark is an entrepreneur, an innovator, an author, an academic. Probably good that I'm following Mark. I don't know Mark necessarily. This probably doesn't help me a whole lot in my prospecting. Again, Mark Harrison, again, 4,200 connections. Sometimes it's a little bit tough to get to know everybody in that network. President CEO at Intermountain Healthcare, not a guy that I would prospect. So here's my point. LinkedIn is providing me content that they think I'm going to be interested in viewing. That's great, right? Frankly, I'm going to tell you, maybe LinkedIn has seen this video, I don't think they're very good at it. As I pointed out, maybe that post from Triad is valuable to me. Nothing else in here is, right? It's not going to help me get ahead. It might be interesting, but it's not helping me grow my business. Now, by contrast, let me jump over to Sales Navigator and click on the home button here. Now, the only people that I'm going to get, people or entities, that I'm going to get content from, threefold, on this homepage are people, one, that I've told LinkedIn I want to talk to by saving them as a lead. Two, are people that LinkedIn thinks I might want to save as a lead based on the sales preferences that I set in Sales Navigator. And number three, content by companies, maybe like that Triad post, right? That help me start a conversation with people I want to prospect at Triad. So everything that shows up here, and we'll scroll through it a little bit, is going to be designed to help me start conversations with ideal people. That's it. It's that simple. That, again, just to reinforce, is what the huge majority of advisors tell me is the biggest difficulty in growing their business. So Andrew, financial advisor, Precision Wealth Solutions, by virtue of the fact that this says message, I know that I saved Andrew as a lead at one point. Johan, same thing. Lori Friedman, same thing. Now Kelsey, it says save as lead. Kelsey is somebody that LinkedIn has identified as somebody I might want to save as a lead and start future conversations with. And then I'll scroll through here and see if we get any company posts as well. I don't see any, but take my word for it, I guess, right? So if a company like, Sarah is a person that I've saved as a lead simply because I want to continue conversations with Sarah. If LPL were to post content, it has the potential of showing up here simply because I'm following Sarah, an AVP in marketing at LPL Financial, right? So if Sarah's a person that I want to have a conversation with, I would simply click this message button and I would send Sarah a private message about this post, right? So I would say, hey, Sarah, great post. And I always want to ask her a question. I love what it said about, this and that about your fear of blogging. And then I would ask her a question. What about this other thing about blogging? And the reason I ask that question is because I'm trying to create banter, right? I want her to answer that question. So I can send another message and eventually lead to, hey, Sarah, been great to get, reacquainted here on LinkedIn. Hey, why don't we schedule a conversation? Sarah's in San Diego, I'm in Florida. I can't fly over there. But if you do work geographically, after you've started that conversation with them, perhaps scheduling a coffee or a lunch or something along those lines. Now, I feel a little foolish because when we were talking about the profile, I missed a very, very important thing. So I'm going to backtrack just a little bit here. And I want to go back. That's how you know this is a live environment, right? I'm going to go back to John West. I want to talk about, we talked about getting rid of the advisors you're connected to. Now, I want to tell you who you should be connected to. Number one, connect to as many of your clients as possible. Now, they're already clients, so there's no reason to prospect these people, right? And that's okay, right? There's a great opportunity that if they're posting content, Sales Navigator is going to give you another way to communicate with these people outside of, say, that review meeting or the one annual event you invite them to, right? If they post an article, why not say, hey, great article. Love what you said about this, right? It's just another way to reinforce that communication with your clients. Number two, connect with as many prospects as possible. And I don't care if they're a fresh prospect from a week ago or if they're a dead prospect from 5 years ago. We're going to use Sales Navigator to rekindle old conversations. Number 3, connect with as many of your COIs as possible. For those of you at Jones, KRPs, right? Your CPAs, your estate attorneys, any other professional referral resources. Great way to reinforce those relationships. And then the 4th group that we recommend you connect to, a little more nebulous, but we call them other advocates. Now, these are people that you may not ever think you're going to do business with. However, you have a good trusted relationship with them. Maybe they're an old college roommate, you know, perhaps your second cousin. Anyway, people that have a trusted relationship, you never know who they're connected to that maybe they can get you in front of, which would be great. So anyway, backtracking a little bit to talk about the right people to build your network around. And now let's jump back into Sales Navigator and pick up where we were. I was talking about sending Sarah a message to start a conversation with her, right? Now, I could certainly make the same comment about this post publicly. The problem with that is, chances are, Sarah's not going to reply to your public comment. So if you make a public comment, Sarah's probably not going to reply, whereas if you send her a private message, she's a lot more prone to reply, and then you've got a better opportunity to start that banter. Okay, so here's routine number 1 for you. With a 5-minute daily investment, you can go into Sales Navigator and use this content newsfeed to start 3 conversations a day. Super simple, right? Some of those are going to be clients. Some of those are going to be potential COIs. Great. Some of those are going to be prospects, right? So in 5 minutes a day, find 3 posts on Sales Navigator and start a conversation with somebody you're connected to and that you've saved as a lead, okay? 5-minute daily investment, 3 conversations, that's 15 a week, that's 60 a month, that's 720 conversations a year that you're going to attempt to start with a 5-minute daily investment. Now, not everybody's going to reply to you, right? So don't be discouraged if you only get 1 reply out of your 3 attempts. If you only get 1 reply out of your 3 attempts, you're looking at starting right around 200, 250 conversations every year. And that's if you get 1 reply. What happens if you get 2, right? So for those of you who are having trouble starting new conversations consistently, here's a great way to do that. Okay, so that's daily routine, number 1. Now, weekly routine, which is number 2, is all about getting the right introductions. Okay, so I'm going to pull up a profile of a friend of mine here in a second. The stats are, and this comes from the Oxley Institute, and they're an awesome research institute in the industry. The stats are 83% of affluent people do not like it when you ask them for a referral, okay? So if every sales coach you've ever had has told you to ask for referrals, I'm going to tell you to stop asking for referrals. You may ask for 10 of them and you'll get one. And you'll go to your sales manager and your sales coach and you'll say, hey, I asked for a referral and I got one. And you'll all pat yourselves on the back. And that's great, got a referral. But based on that research, what you don't see is the damage you're doing to 8 out of 10 relationships in the process. So here's the flip side of that. Get rid of that email, that's one you shouldn't see. Here's the flip side of that. 67% of those same people have met their current advisor through a personal or a professional introduction. So quit asking for referrals, start asking for introductions. And this is a really easy way to make that happen. So I'm going to pull the profile of a friend of mine named Nancy Kiefer. It's not showing me matching leads. Let me just quit all this real quick so we stop getting those notifications. There's Nancy Kiefer. We'll click on Nancy's profile. And Nancy's a friend of mine. She also happens to be the president and CEO of our Regional Chamber of Commerce, which means she's a pretty well-connected person in the business environment here in Daytona Beach. I'm going to click on her 500 plus connections. All right, it's going to give me a Nancy's connected to about 970 people. Now, the first thing I want to do is sort that by geography. Right, so we want to get narrowed down to Daytona Beach. By virtue of living in Daytona Beach and being part of the business community myself, Nancy and I share a lot of connections here. So what I'm going to do is just click on second degree connections. What that means is it's going to give me results of people that Nancy's connected to, but I am not connected to. Okay. So 208 people in the Daytona Beach area that Nancy's connected to. There's that number again. 5 of those people recently changed jobs. So we'll use this just for sake of conversation, right? Let's use Robin, for example, right? I don't know if she reaches a level of affluence, but that's okay. So I would reach out to Nancy, and we recommend doing this with 2 people a week, right? I would reach out to Nancy, my friend, the CEO and president of the chamber, and I would say, Nancy, via phone, by the way, Nancy, old buddy, old pal, how's it going? How's the dog? How's the family? How's the chamber? Small talk, right? Get caught up. And then I'd say, hey, Nancy, listen, I was playing on LinkedIn, and I noticed you're connected to a woman named Robin Lasky. How well do you know Robin? Oh, I know Robin, maybe we went to church together. I noticed that Robin now works for Catholic Media, right? So maybe they share a church, maybe she's part of the chamber, whatever it might be. Listen, I noticed Nancy, she changed jobs recently. And one of the things we do over here at Van Derven Wealth Management is we help people with 401k rollovers when they go to a new employer, right? And so I'm hoping that maybe you can introduce me to Robin. I'd love to give her a little bit of information on what she needs to be considering as she changes jobs, right? There's a lot for her to consider she's probably not even thinking about, right? So maybe we can go grab lunch next week. What do you think, right? Now, Nancy's a friend of mine, which is why I'm channeling her network to find the right introduction. So assuming Nancy says, yes, Charlie, let's make that introduction. I'll tell you what our data says, that if you follow the routine and you ask for 2 introductions a week, that's about 100 a year. You're going to be about 20 or 25% successful at that. It's about 2 introductions a month with targeted people that you asked for. Now, once you get that introduction out of the way, you say to Nancy, gosh, Nancy, I'll tell you what, I just signed up for Sales Navigator. And that's how I found out that you and Robin were connected. What a valuable tool for my business. I'm going to use it more. And hey, listen, if I see anybody else you're connected to, do you mind if I just ask you a few questions about them? Now, again, Nancy's my friend, right? She's going to say, hey, Charlie, no problem. So I've gone from sourcing an introduction to Robin to getting permission to harvest Nancy's network. Now, I would not abuse that opportunity. When I get together with Nancy, I'd have a name or 2. But the beauty is she's said yes. So as part of my agenda, if she's a client of mine, part of my agenda in the review meeting is to bring up a couple names from her LinkedIn network, right? Hopefully we can source more introductions that way. So that's routine number 2. Again, we recommend requesting 2 introductions a week. You're going to be about 20% successful with this. It's going to take you about a half hour to do the research and then the outreach to your advocates. Right? Now here's number 3, and this is the fun one, right? This really shows you the power of Sales Navigator. I'm going to hover over this advanced button here, and I'm going to click for search for leads. Using this criteria, lots of criteria, you can now sort strangers that fit your target prospect and start new conversations. So if you're still using the phone, if you're still doing seminars, that's okay. I know that the quality of those have dropped off in the last decade. But there's certain circumstances where I actually think seminars are awesome, right? But this is the single best way that you can cold prospect today, okay? So under geography, let's just pick a city. I'm nearby Orlando, so let me pick Orlando, Florida. Under geography, type in the city that you're prospecting. And you can see in Orlando, there's almost 1 million professional profiles. Now let's just use 401k prospecting or plan sponsor prospecting for our purposes today. And under title, I'm going to type in some typical plan sponsors, right? Chief Financial Officer, how about Controller, right? Let's throw in, by no means are we going to get all of them, but let's throw in some Human Resources, Specialist, Director would be good, Manager would be good, throw in some HR, Manager. Again, we're just throwing some in here. Certainly you can get more precise when you spend more time with this. Oh, business owner is a big one. You can also specify the type of business, the industry, the size of the business. Founder might be a good one. Anyway, okay, that's enough. So out of those almost 1 million people in Orlando that have a profile, you can see 77,000 of those people, almost 78,000, fit the description of a potential plan sponsor. Now, we could narrow this even further by years of experience, the size business they work for, so you know you're after the right plan. Certainly those of you who have a list of 5500s, you could go through manually and find the people on the 5500s on LinkedIn. And what we coach advisors to do is to reach out to 200 of these people every month, right? There's that rollover again, so there's those opportunities too. If you send a connection request to these 200 people, typically what I would do is I would sort this by second degree connection. I don't recommend doing all this activity in a day, by the way, right? Stretch this out. Do 10 a day, do 50 a week. Don't do 200 in one day. That's too much activity. So 10 a day, reach out to 10 of these people every business day and send them a note that says, hey, Timothy, I came across your profile while I was looking at other people I'm connected to on LinkedIn. Please join my network. Something along those lines, right? If you reach out to 200 a month, you're going to add between 50 and 60 new people to your network, and that's great. They may be strangers to you, but they're target strangers, right? So they're in your network. Now, what you want to do, and we help out with this, right? We help advisors write 2 follow-up scripts. They would go out a few days after Timothy accepts our invitation connection. And those scripts are designed to create a little bit of familiarity and rapport, and then ask for a sales call, right? If you send those 2 scripts out to your 50 new connections, you're going to put together 2 or 3 sales calls a month, right? And they're just, let's get acquainted type calls, but it opens up that new conversation with the target prospect, and then you do what you do best, and that's nurture a relationship and convert them into a client. So those are the 3 routines, right? Number 1 is starting 3 conversations every single day. Number 2 is asking for 2 introductions every week. And number 3 is using the advanced search functionality in Sales Navigator to reach out to 200 target cold prospects a month and warm those people up and create 2 or 3 sales calls a month out of that. So in those 3 ways, if you leverage Sales Navigator, I promise you that you're going to grow your business as a result of that activity. Now, if you choose, you can set up a consultation with one of our team members here at Social Advisors. It's a 30-minute consultation. Their job is to get educated on your practice and then tailor these routines to fit you specifically. Now, we do have services that we offer as well, so they're going to tell you about that, right? That's part of their job too, of course. No obligation to that, absolutely no obligation to that. There's no strings attached. And honestly, the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to walk away from that consultation with knowledge on how you leverage this incredible platform to grow your business. So I hope you take advantage of that consultation. And as always, if you've got any questions, you want to learn more about the business, check out social-advisors.com. And I'm wide open. Reach out to me directly if you'd like to, 386-846-5291. Again, Charlie Van Derven with Social Advisors. Thank you for joining me for this kind of entry into LinkedIn Sales Navigator. I hope you found it valuable, and I hope we can do some business together in the future.